Well, as you know, I just did the web art summary for March 2017, but there's an article at Wolf Street talking about Euro breakup rattles investors once again. And some of the stuff the Webbot's forecasting is these European countries that are part of the European Union, like Italy, needing a bailout, need to fix the banking problems, hidden problems that weren't known about, off-balance sheet stuff, massive problems. Germany, we need a loan. We don't want to give you a loan. European Union, European Central Bank, will you give us a loan? No, we can't, that kind of thing. And it leads them to have some major, major problems. The Webbot has spoken about Italy. Watch Italy, watch the Italian banks. And as the report just said a minute ago when I did the last report, which my last video, they're back in the spotlight. So I saw this article. I'm like, this kind of goes hand in hand with that. Europe is going to be falling apart. The EU is going to be broken apart. It is going to happen. It is mathematical certainty. Miss Marie Le Pen, French, she should be absolutely destroying the competition when it comes time to vote. She should wipe the floor with them, just like all the other ones are doing. Donald Trump, you got Miss May over in Britain or whatever, and there's a few other ones up and coming in other countries over there that are being called the Donald Trump of such and such, the Donald Trump of this country. It is a movement. She had a speech in the European Parliament the other day, Miss Le Pen, and looked right at Angela Merkel and laid into her. I am not you. I've been called the anti-Merkel, which I am proud of. And, talk about the refugee problems, and we're going to be a sovereign state again, and we're leaving the EU, all this stuff. And you should have seen the look on Miss Angela Merkel's face. She was not even kind of happy or thrilled. And I freaking loved it. Okay? But he's WolfStreet.com, Euro breakup rattles investors once again. Only this time the ECB is already doing whatever it takes. With hotly contested general elections coming up in France, Germany, and Holland, where yet another upset could be on the cards, 2017 was always going to be a nail-biter for the Eurozone. That was before former Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi raised the prospects of fresh elections in the home of electoral chaos, Italy. And investors' nerves are fraying. The spread between the 10-year yields of French government debt and German government debt has already widened from 0.28% in October to 0.81% today, in anticipation of French elections, which are to be held in April. According to Frankfurt-based Centix research group, the probability that France could fracture the euro is also rising, reaching 8.4% in its latest survey of investor sentiment, as concerns about Marie Le Pen's threat to the French and European establishment continue to rise. It's the highest level registered to date. Well, guess what? I got news for you. It'll be way over the level the mainstream anyways, says it's going. Oh, it's just reaching 8.4%. That France could fracture the euro. What did I tell you was going to happen after Brexit? It'll be that's the first domino. You're going to see other dominoes falling one after the other. Italy's going to have to do it because they're not even going to have a choice. France is going to do it because they too ultimately won't have a choice, but Miss Marie Le Pen's going to get in there before they ever cross that road where they don't have a choice. She can already see the writing on the wall. Anyways, let's get out of this currency block. We are a sovereign nation, she was saying. This is not a group of countries. We are France. We are a single entity. Whatever. Paraphrasing a bit, but it was an awesome. Matter of fact, if I can find it, the video, because it's subtitled, but it's fantastic. I'll post it in the link in the description box of this video. The poll, which was launched in June 2012, has, at the height of Europe's sovereign debt crisis, actually, by the way, I don't know if that's the height of their sovereign debt crisis, to be honest with you. I think it's been compiling. But anyways, height of the Europe's sovereign debt crisis, surveys more than 5,000 retail and institutional investors from 20 countries about their expectations of Europe's financial markets. The result of the latest survey is clear as day. The euro crisis is once again back front and center in investors' minds. A quarter of respondents believe that at least one state will abandon the single currency in the next 12 months. It's the highest level since Brexit, when Centix's fear index reached 27.5%. The highest level ever recorded was during the Eurozone's peripheral debt crisis when it reached 73%. Ironically, no country left, thanks largely to Mario Draghi's pledge to do whatever it takes to keep the euro intact. But now, 5 years later, most of the Eurozone's existential problems remain unresolved despite the ECB having frittered 3.7 trillion euros, or roughly 36% of Eurozone GDP, on keeping the leaky ship and the region's biggest banks afloat. Hard as it is to believe, Greece is arguably in even worse shape today than it was when the term Grexit was first coined 6 years ago. It cannot leave the Eurozone, but as long as it stays, its economy will continue to plumb new depths of depression, with no end in sight to the latest round of bailout negotiations. Bank deposits flight is at its worst since 2015, as Greeks once again yank their funds out of the banks in anticipation of another face-off with the European Central Bank. Greece is just one of many seemingly intractable problems the Eurozone faces. There's also Italy, the world's third most indebted government, which somehow hopes to rescue, with public funds of course, a banking sector that is home to an unspecified number of insolvent institutions, as well as roughly a third of the EU's entire stock of non-performing loans. This is a problem that will cost, at the very least, scores of billions of euros to address. Now, if we're to believe the webbot, it's not really going to be addressable, try as they might. Because off-balance sheet stuff and hidden, according to the webbot, hidden indebtedness, things, again, liabilities come up. Keep in mind, that wasn't it also Italy's oldest bank? What was that one called? Monte Paschi. The new bosses came in, lasted a few months, we're out. And you know how big of pay, the big paychecks, the top get when they work at a bank. The CEO, upper management, they're making huge money. And these people, again, I think it was that bank, walked in, stayed around for a little while, and said, something doesn't feel right. They didn't say that, but I'm just going to go somewhere else. I'm going to step down as, CEO. Whoa, where are you going? You just got here. We're paying you good, aren't we? Yeah, you're paying me good. But I got to take he didn't say this. They didn't say this, but I'm telling you what probably happened. I got to take a peek at those off-books, hidden liability things. And we're attached at the hip to Deutsche Bank with derivative swaps and all this crap. This is going to be what Warren Buffett termed weapons of financial mass destruction, derivatives. And when that baby goes, you can't pay me enough to stay at this bank. It is so insolvent. I don't even think we're going to be able to ask the ECB or anybody for help. It's that bad, which means the government probably not going to step in either because it can't, because it's not able to print euros because it's part of the European Union, doesn't have its own central bank, which means the taxpayers, the people who own accounts, have accounts with us, oh my God. There's going to be some really unhappy people, and there's not a chance in hell I'm going to be CEO, and this guy's going to be the CFO, and the CEO. We are out of here. But what about the good pay? Pfft, we are out of here. That's my take on how that went. So anyways, this problem that will cost, at the very least, scores of billions of euros to address, which I'm telling you I don't think is going to happen. But even if that happens, the Eurozone's biggest problem, he says, the economic and financial heterogeneity of its 19 member nations and the complete absence, according to some, by design, of a fiscal transfer mechanism will continue to fester. Even on the off chance that Germany were to suddenly sanction a fiscal transfer scheme, it's probably already too late in proceedings for it to change the course of events. Mark Blythe, a professor of political economy in the U.S., who was one of very few academics who correctly guessed 3 of the biggest political shocks of 2017, which was Brexit, Trumpism, and the no vote in Italy's constitutional referendum, has now issued a warning that 2017 could even be the year that the euro ceases to exist. That's a hell of a statement, but he did get 3 insane predictions correct. At the very least, my opinion, this will be the start. Matter of fact, Brexit was already the start, technically speaking, but we could look at 2017 potentially, I guess, as the start of the end of the Eurozone or the euro. And it'll continue to get worse in 2018 until maybe it's gone. That's my take on it. But again, who am I? Who am I compared to this fella? Got 3 of those things right. That should have all been wrong. Don't know that we'll see it in 2017. But anyways, he says, for all of the Sturm und Drang, German for storm and stress, about Brexit and whether Britain should have left, it might actually be the case that the EU ceases to exist before Article 50 is even invoked. Well, that suggests it'll be way sooner than the end of 2017, if he's right. Before the end of 2017. Think about it this way. You have an election coming up in France. It's entirely plausible the National Front will win the first round. At that point, everyone in France is meant to organize a giant blocking campaign to stop them from being elected. That would mean everyone on the French left has to vote for someone who basically wants to bring Thatcher's menu to France. And that's after 8 years of stagnation. That's going to be a very hard sell, he says. Whether it's France, Italy, or Spain, Grexit, Greece exit, Brexit, or Nexit. Nexit, what is that, like Netherlands? Nexit? A resurgent doom loop. Doom loop. Banking collapse, or the Eurozone's target 2 imbalances, something will eventually give. A resurgent doom loop. I'd like the name of that. That makes me happy when I hear that. Doom loop. It's my kind of doom phrase. Whether it's France, Italy, or Spain, Grexit, Brexit, or Nexit, a resurgent doom loop, banking collapse, or the Eurozone's target 2 imbalances simply will eventually give. The time-honored game of extend and pretend is losing its magical effect. Even in the short term, ever since the global financial crisis exposed the chronic shortcomings of the European Monetary Union and Europe's banking system, the EU, with the European Central Bank doing most of the arm work, has been frantically juggling so many intractable existential problems for so long that it's often assumed, particularly in the Brussels bubble, that it will be able to continue to juggle them ad infinitum, and regardless of how many new problems are thrown at it to juggle. But investors, among others, are once again beginning to have serious doubts, only this time the ECB is already doing whatever it takes and is not working that well anymore. Turns out Italy's banking crisis is not fixed. Read, is that depression hanging over Europe's banking system? Which I think I covered a little bit the other day. Extend and pretend. More debt, more currency, pretend everything's fine, and it's not. And again, if you just listen to the Webart report, dollar printing, euro printing, other currencies printing, and it said, the Webart report I just read last video, the U.S. dollar is about to go even higher on the dollar index because there's going to be some currency issues elsewhere. In the dollar index, most heavily weighed basket is a small basket of currencies, but the most heaviest weighed against it is the euro. So are we talking 2 sinking ships? And the euro sinks faster, therefore ours looks like it's going higher, because essentially it does. If the euro goes down, the dollar index goes up for us anyways. or for some reason if the dollar was just revalued higher, it's kind of the same thing for the euro. The euro's, lower. So I already raised a red flag, if you recall, when I saw the euro, which, let's take a look, USD to euro exchange rate, just curious. $1 equals 95 cents of a euro. Now, as you know, recently, it was kind of the opposite. Now, in other words, actually, no, that is right. Was it 95 cents? Yeah, anyways, the euro has always been around, $1.30. So it'd cost you $1.30 US dollars to buy 1 euro. Okay, $1 or 1 euro, whatever you want to call it. It's been like that forever. Only very recently has that absolutely plummeted. And I was doing a video not that long ago where I was like, oh my God, am I looking at the charts right? Did the euro actually go under the dollar? Oh my gosh, I think I'm seeing that. And here we are, it's still right around there. This is, this I guess basically means that, if $1 is worth 95 cents of a euro, we've never seen numbers like this low, comparing those two currencies. And nothing's changing. This wasn't a little fluke. Oh, it's going back up the way it was. No. So now I'm expecting 2.0 of that to happen, where once again, US dollar remains super duper king against practically all currencies on the face of the earth. And it wasn't that guy, Mr. Wilkerson, whatever, the preacher guy, that said it would be euro would go first, and then it would come to the US. Funny, Webbot just got done saying something similar. Euro would go first, and then those monetary issues would be right over here next. And he said you'd have 2, 3, 4 weeks to get out of that, get your crap in order in the U.S. He mentioned it's gonna be he says he saw like a South American country, possibly Mexico, defaulting on a bond or something, $1 billion, $10 billion, something. I forgot what the numbers were, and that would trigger some issues. You'd see that happen, and this would all be around the same time frame. Now I realize the prophetess lady, whatever her name was, Baba Vanga, she did only have an 80-something% accuracy rating, so that's not 100%. But she had a lot of stuff she nailed. She even said the 44th president would be black. She nailed it. But she also said he would be the last, and partially due, I guess, because of a huge economic problem that would be taking place at that time. Now, we have the pleasure, I'll say, of having a 45th president named Donald Trump. However, is that going to automatically stop the economic problem? According to the crap that I'm reading, and I read you, the answer is no. So we got to wait and see. And again, I'll be okay if things kind of chug along where they are right now. If everything was just to chug along, and at least in my lives, and maybe my life, and some of your lives, you're probably like, oh no, I'm good right now. I'm okay. I'd be okay with that chugging along. But again, I'm looking at the hard numbers. Massive debt, 2.5 times debt to GDP ratio. This is so unsustainable. This is a mathematical certainty that this cannot continue. And they may be dealing with it this year. Take care.